afternoon, good evening, just in case anyone's still back in the day. My name is Sharif Al Abd. I work for Oracle, and as you know very well, Oracle is a big world, and I do belong to one of the business units underneath Oracle that everyone knows by heart. That it's called Oracle Primavera. Probably over the past few years, for those of you who have been following on what's happening in the industry, it was not really fair for us to continue the branding as only Oracle Primavera, because some of you might be aware that Oracle acquired Econex, one of the regional leading and multinational successful businesses in project collaboration and cost controls as well. So the new name for my business unit is now the CEGBU, or Construction and Engineering Global Business Unit. And this is where I've been working for the past 6 years or so. I belong to a global team that works across industry strategy, customer advisory, and innovation. Probably touching on what Saad thankfully mentioned at the beginning for my introduction, I come from construction management background, just exactly the same year of graduation as Saad, so I'm not an old person. For the past 15 years, I've been working in the project management career since the graduation, specifically from the year 2007. I started teaching Primavera courses with one of the recognized Primavera certified partners back then across different industries. And just like anyone, and probably maybe some of you on the call today, they have pursued their career in the project management automation from training, pre-sales, implementation. That has taken really a lot of my time, and then leading cross-functional teams in my Oracle Primavera partner before 2015 across Egypt, UAE, and Saudi Arabia for the delivery of implementation services, both in Primavera P6 as well as the project controls, either Unifier or what you might have used before as well, Expedition or Primavera Contract Manager. My current role within Oracle is leading the strategic true digital transformations. I'm sure that every one of you has heard about digital transformation in the industry, but a true digital transformation has really some characteristics that I'll be touching on today. I come from a very deep EPC background, hence my involvement in all strategic partnerships with EPC companies within the Middle East, as well as large government accounts in both UAE and Saudi Arabia within the Public Investment Fund as well. Along with my daily job, I actually like public speaking since the Students' Union days in the school. So I've been speaking for the past 12 years in PMI conferences, in industry and market-related conferences across the world. Well, now no one claims that they do, because we're all living on that virtual world on Zoom and WebEx and the other virtual platforms. So this is something that I do alongside with my job, and I actually enjoy doing that, because I believe even though I work for a software vendor, the biggest concern and what I've been looking at is hearing the customer voice and their feedback in what we're offering and what the industry and the market needs in order to thrive. Just like Saad said, I love mountain climbing as well as trail running. So if I'm not working, I'm always training. I've been living that life for the past 5 years, adapting to train, work, train. I have a long weekly routine of training and workouts, and yeah, my outdoors activities are always on a mountain, and I kind of enjoy it that much. So let's get straight into the topic. Probably that was one of the housekeeping items. I'll be going through my presentation, and I'll be allowing about 10 to 15 minutes of having questions, both audio questions as well as on the chat. I'll do my best to cover as many questions as you post on the chat, so please keep them going through. And Venkatesh and Saadi will be helping me capturing these questions, and happy to answer most of them. If I won't be able to do that, then they'll collate all the questions. I'll put it in an Excel sheet maybe, and I'll send it back to them. So today, for the sake of the presentation, I'm not gonna throw on you a full deck of Oracle Primavera applications and explain functionalities. Today, I'm gonna be wearing multiple hats. So I'll put myself in your shoe as an EPC or a general contractor or a project owner, uh, and I'll sometime argue and challenge that thought that it's coming from the client side with me wearing the hat of a software vendor. And sometimes I'll be putting some industry challenges into the mix in order to come up with what's the true definition of a digital transformation, that one, that it has the innovation into it. But the first thing, if I tell you what's the status quo of the industry today when it comes to project management. So I am sitting with an IT or the CIO for an organization, and I ask you, what is the definition of the project management automation or software in your organization? Some would say we've been using Primavera P6 as a natural progression and growth for the use of Primavera P3 in the past. In some projects, we're using Microsoft Project because the client is mandating it. Autodesk has been mandated for quite a few years, etc., etc. We might be having either AACE or Unified or PMWeb or just any other product that it works in project control. So different answers from different people. But this particular aspect is not for naming the product. It's about the maturity level that your organization is possessing in order to plan for that digital transformation. The biggest hurdle for me personally, when I sit with any CEO or whoever the person in charge of leading that digital transformation is, first define and identify where we are from that chart. Are we on a marginal state? Well, some companies are so realistic and they tell you, yes, we are in a firefighting solution. We use Primavera P6 standalone, silo-based, or even Microsoft Project. People are not connected together and we don't have a single source of truth. Some others, they shy out and they say, well, no, we are in best-in-class solution. We have processes in place, we have workflows, and we have people on site, and we have acquired many products. But the reality is, these things are not leveraged or operated the way it should be. So different answers from different people sometimes within the organization. However, the key for driving any digital transformation and assessing the need for having an innovation or innovative technology that it would provide efficiency and increase from productivity, it's always coming from the right definition on where we are. Let me just pick on one of these stages for the maturity, because my belief from the last 12 years of work with enterprise level organizations is falling the most within the stable state. So stability here means that there is a project collaboration platform on board. This platform can be sometimes SharePoint, AACE, where we see it the most, sometimes PMWeb, or there are some clients that they are still operating our legacy Primavera Contract Manager or Expedition, and they indeed have formal processes in place. Probably they are not all leveraged, probably they are not all integrated based on any particular standards from CII or from PMI or rarely IPMA or what have you, but processes are in there. and they have scheduling management tools alongside with that. I rarely found a company that they really have the tool sets that it can give the overarching approach and insights on how the entire portfolio of their projects are operating. And if that exists, it's just a matter of a form-based dashboard where people are actually and manually intervening in the entry of the data into that particular dashboard, which is not a real evolving situation for an organization. So, what is it like when after you identify where you are from that digital transformation? There are 6 main pillars for you as a customer that you need to investigate. You need to look at the depth of each of these pillars and make your SWOT analysis all across, because this process and these 6 pillars are actually repetitive. So if there is a one common thing that it brings all these together, it's that they are all repetitive. Let's start with the first one, evaluate. The evaluation here entails the process around 3 main criteria. The first one is people, the second is the tools, and the third is the process. And I'm not mentioning them in order to indicate any priority or importance. They are all important and they should all happen. In some opportunities, customers are willing to change. People are willing to change processes. They don't have that resistance, but they don't have the money. Or they have the money, but they don't have all of the above. So there are variables within any opportunity for any company in order to strive for the digital transformation journey. Evaluation, in my mind, the hardest part of it is the process evaluation and how it's harnessed. I see a lot of project owners, they spend sometimes millions of dollars bringing the largest consulting companies on board, Deloitte, PwC, and they really do a good job and they put the processes in place. But chances are that people are not 100% harnessing, implementing, and leveraging these processes in place. So that's part of the evaluation. Evaluation here is not to scrap a piece of a software for the sake of others. I'll be the first one to tell you as a software vendor so that in some projects, we actually go and replace an existing software, not because that this software is not doing what it's meant to be. It's because people abused it. Implementation is not in place. People did not adapt to the change. People are trying to put the hurdles towards the implementation. And all we're doing is just bringing a fresh approach. And just what happened for the prior software or the predecessor might happen for Oracle or any other name in the world. So evaluation should really bring about all these 3 factors together, because I would say the least the concern is the capability of the software. Sometimes it's the scalability and how broad is the platform to capture all the requirements that the company is looking at, both at the current stage and in the future. But quite oftentimes it's because of there is something missing. One of the elements is missing into the adoption of that particular software. It's either the people are giving up on the use of the software, or they're abusing the use of it. So for example, attaching and uploading documents and powering through the workflow without actioning on real time on each particular step in a project control solution. And I'm sure that a lot of you would relate to what I'm saying here. Once you're done from the evaluation, I would say go ahead and acquire and buy new products. But when you do so, make sure that this is part of what you need and it's completely aligned with the objectives. And this is where innovation comes into play. And I will mention examples. I'm not going to leave you today with theories and what you do and not to do without giving you examples of what's happening from innovation perspective today. Leveraging Leveraging is sometimes from the IT landscape. I have also seen in a lot of opportunities the challenge of uh, reusing or repurposing some of the technologies that they can really deliver to the company objectives. Partnerships, sometimes they are really beneficial. So, on the top of my mind, uh, most of the conversations, especially with the general contractor and EPC level, they would always say, well, we don't have a cost management body of knowledge, or we don't have a playbook like standards or benchmarking so that we do our cost controls based on it. And this is something which AACE can actually help do for organizations. Or maybe I am going into the next level and we're thinking of having the advanced work packaging, AWP. And people can just go and knock the door on the CII, who have done a great job putting together an AWP advanced work packaging in place. There are too many things that you can go and surface the academia, explore the opportunities for partnerships from that particular aspect. One other partnership that it can happen nowadays is with organizations such as ourselves. Within the Oracle CE GPU, for example, you can just partner with us because we're not only a bunch of salespeople, and it's not only us actually. If you just go and look at the market, what's happening in the market, most of the competitors in the market, they understand the value of having industry-related people that they can act as a customer advisor. So spend some time with us, spend some time educating yourself on all competitor websites on what's happening in the industry, what other peers are doing, what's the use of the technology, success, use cases, what happened in this large infrastructure project, what was the role of the CEO in bringing governance and accountability into the project. So these partnerships are actually successful and they are very healthy. What's revolutionizing our industry nowadays, and it never happened before, is the role of the startups into the industry. I am sure that every single one of you has seen, read, or heard in any forum or any organization or just in any conference in the past that construction industry is unfortunately the lowest adapter to the use of the IT and automation in general, both software as well as the hardware. This is completely and rapidly changing nowadays, especially with the pandemic hitting everywhere in the world. And it's happening where we have been always screaming that this part of the project needs the automation more than the other part. And I am sure again that you are able to solve the equation. Job, field, and site management is what it requires the automation the most. What has been happening in the market across the world, and this is not only the Middle East, and please do not relate to the maturity level and the workers maturity level. What has been happening across the world, that the first focus for the acquisition of a project management software before anything else is project office and people who sit in the trailers in the projects. But we never thought about bringing that unification and standardization in the job site, whereas it has to be the other way around. So that concept is changing with reality capture solutions, with automatic timekeeping, with IoT technology for workers, changing and actually revolutionizing the industry. Startups has ever been changing and increasingly growing attention into the industry. And I promise I'm going to show you an example of 3 different technologies, very niche technologies that you can go explore them, and of course explore other companies that they do a similar job as such, those 3. So what does that mean? Success is the end of the story? No. You have to be realistic and you have to be aware that this digital transformation is not a project with a definite end. This is a journey and it has to be phased out, and it cannot be big bang approach within any organization, because chances are it's not going to happen. The nature of the construction industry, the very agile and vibrant work that it happens in the industry across all the functional teams, will never allow, despite of the very sweet words at the beginning from both the client as well as from ourselves as the software vendor, that everything is going to go as planned. Trust me, I am telling you, nothing is going to go as planned. There will be changes, there will be modifications, there will be reluctance, resistance, there will be changes, there will be turnovers, and implementations will not 100% tick the box as they were planned to, which is fine. We have to understand that this is a very agile industry, and hence anything that it's delivered to it is agile too. So when we say automation in the project management, there are three main aspects from a project lifecycle perspective that touch into planning, scheduling, as well as project control. And there is a big aspect related to the design, authoring, and management. Okay, so let me start with the one at the bottom down here. Uh, it's not any, it doesn't bring any surprise to anyone when I say authoring designs, models, even the inclusion of the GIS into the design management nowadays, as such is happening in large project owner organizations across not only the Middle East, but in the world, is where Autodesk, Bentley, and Trimble are leading that kind of transformation. And again, I am urging you to go and visit their offerings and see what they are offering into the market, because I think what they're doing now is beyond just having a building information modeling. Let me just get to where most of you might probably are coming from, which is planning and scheduling, project controls, and project collaboration, or we're calling the document management. So this part of the world is a P6 customer base. More than 95% of the contractors within this part of the world, they have been using Primavera from the P3 and even earlier versions than P3 to Primavera P6. And probably some of you might be using Primavera P6 now on the cloud. There have been a lot of theories and implementations and applications of what's called the last planner methodology. I'm not sure how many of you haven't heard about the last planner methodology. So that methodology is bringing the tasks from Primavera P6 or Microsoft Project or just any other planning and scheduling tool and decompose this into smaller, lean tasks that any supervisor or a site manager or construction manager can take these tasks, lean tasks, assign them on the job itself for the resources so that they can commit, work on it, and report back their progress against these activities. So that for myself, I can take this aggregate and send to Mr. Planner in order to have a visibility on his project progress. This is something that automation has been bringing, and within Oracle Primavera, this is something that we started introducing in our products about 4 years ago. Now, when you get into the other part or the other side of the house, when I ask you what project controls do you automate today, regardless of the vendor that you're using, some say, well, we use RFIs, digital meeting minutes, we open our environment for the general contractor and the consultants to collaborate. And if you are a general contractor, you have a platform for all subcontractors to work on it. But it's only documents. It's only things related to work inspections, to work permits, to field inspection requests, etc., etc. The true definition of project controls only happens and achieved when cost controls is part of it. And when you say cost controls, oh boy, it has a lot of definitions and a lot of elements and aspects that they need to be captured within the project. So it's no wonder if I go to a CEO meeting and then he tells me, well, Sharif, my request is very simple. I need to have visibility across my costs across the life cycle of the project. Thank you. Easier said than done. Because if you're telling me that you want to capture every single cost transaction in your project, okay, then you need everything, because everything in your project is a cost. An answer to an RFI might involve a long change management process. An answer in an RFI might suspend and pause the work by your project owner, which means that there is a burdened cost for your labor, for the equipment, for material delivery, and overheads. Okay, there is a lot here, and I'm sure that most of you have come across a lot of publications from the AACE into the aspect where is the hidden cost in the project or the burden cost in any project. So it sounds simple, but actually in the heart of it, you know what it means in order to capture every single element that it brings about a cost in a project? It means the following. It means this. Tell me about your operational costs. Tell me about accounting costs and what's the cost controls. You will be surprised if I tell you that today my biggest challenge with any organization in the implementation is not that they don't have the money. It's not the discount. It's not the approval cycle. We got used to that. Sometimes we start opportunities and we believe that 3 months down the line, that company will start the implementation and that journey of digital transformation. And sometimes it slips to years. We get accustomed to that. You know what's the biggest problem in here that I faced with even large enterprises within the market is having or the lack of having a unified cost coding structure across all the projects. And there is no wonder if I again tell you that they don't understand what's the value of that. What is it for me to have a one standardized cost coding structure that it represents me, and it's not another modified version from the CSI with the master format 2 coding structure. It is important that a company is working on their unification strategy that can happen by a strong PMO department or by a project controls department head to standardize the cost coding structure. The second in the list is the material coding structure if we're talking to an EPC or a general contractor in this case. So that's one really of the most important things. Of course, I cannot pick on each and every single line of these, but you would be having the slides. It's good for you to have this as an itemized list across the 3 main pillars for the cost management, because everything in here needs to be really visualized, needs to be accountable, needs to be audited in order for me to answer the question and achieve the objective of Mr. CEO, who is challenging me with capturing all the project costs. And the reason for that, if you're a general contractor, is do a reliable revenue recognition. I would challenge every single one of you today, if you tell me that this is even a 90% reliable revenue recognition, you cannot claim that, because there must be one, two, or few of these elements that you can see on the screen that they're not really done properly, or they're not covering every single person who's involved in that journey of the cost management lifecycle. I hope that most of you agree with me on that, because having a dashboard and showing a dashboard is just easy. There are a lot of companies that they can produce a piece of a dashboard that it looks much better than the one produced by Oracle or SAP. Trust me, I'm telling you, probably we're not the best in the showing very sexy presentation and cosmetics into a dashboard, because these dashboards are more form-based. People are filling them up based on their own set of data. They are not generated, they are not connected to the source where all project transactions happen, collaborate, processed, and then it goes into a dashboard. It is tweaked, it's manually intervened, these data, and they're not coming on real-time basis. So it's not about the beauty of the dashboard, it's about the inclusivity and the inclusion, the data inclusion into that dashboard, how timely that data are reported, and does it come from all the sources where all cross-functional teams are actually working. So let me put together three big facets of a project here. When I say project authoring, what does that mean? Let's now wear the hat of a project that not only ourselves, even some other companies, they provide the tools and the sets for building a reliable portfolio management solution where you bring in a business case of all the opportunities that you foresee as projects until you do strategic alignment for these projects and then prioritize these projects based on certain elements to your organization and accordingly authorize these projects. This is what we're calling portfolio management, and that sounds very familiar for any project owner organization. Along with that, or later on, it comes the design authoring. And like I said, there are big players such as Autodesk, such as Bentley. They are really pushing the bar hard beyond doing the building information modeling. And I've been seeing a lot of innovation from IoT, Internet of Things. If just some of you are not aware of it, please look it up, IoT in design management on Google. You'll see a lot of recorded webinars. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube that they're talking about the use of the IoT into the design authoring and the building information modeling. Another thing in the cost estimation is still a black box for me. This part of the world is pretty much on Candy or Excel spreadsheets for the cost estimation. And I'm not really against any. Good for you if you're doing your proper cost estimation within Excel. But the problem is the data integrity and integration as well with the data into the other aspects that they are related to the cost controls. One of the very common things is, well, sorry, my cost estimation coding structure is different from the one that the cost controller is using, and the planner is just not using any of these. So it is a very discontinued process, just to highlight in here. At the heart of it, this is pretty much everything that most of you on the call today is doing, and this is where I'm going to show you some sample innovations that we have adapted and integrated into our own products. And then comes the commissioning, warranty management, and handing over of the projects. It's good for you as an organization to take all these things and start painting what you have, what you don't have, and where the gap is. However, the most important thing of all of these three facets is reporting. How your reporting platform, be it from Microsoft, from Oracle, from SAP, or just anything, Tableau, okay, how the data are reported, how the data are captured, how the data are accountable in order for you to bring this into one common data environment and provide insights. Some of you might have heard about the AI, artificial intelligence, and the use of the AI into the predictive analytics. One of the things that we're doing today with Primavera P6 is not just to show you nice reports or fancy reports, but use the current trending of the project to estimate how the project is going to perform in the future. And I'm not talking about earned value measurements. I'm talking about every single element and behavior that it's happening in the project. That's something that the AI, artificial intelligence, is capable of capturing and bringing into our reporting platform that we're calling Construction Intelligence Cloud. So the world is actually advancing into the area, and it's pushing the bar hard from being interactive analytics into predictive analytics based on the current trending of the project. Okay, let's get into the innovation. So when I tell you innovation today, there are a lot of technological companies that they have the technology and the best of breed solutions, but they don't have the vertical use cases for that, okay? The reason why I wanted to incorporate all of these logos is just to give you examples. And I would, again, request each and every one of you, after you have these slides, is take the name of that logo Look them up and see what they do. Trust me, you'll spend hours and hours educating yourself, orientating yourself in what the world has been really evolving on when it comes to the contech or the construction technology. So let me pick on one of these examples here, and then I'll elaborate on three others. So if I ask you today, did you know that there is a technology, an IE2 technology, embedded in sensors that it can go live in the reform of the concrete, okay, rebars, and it lives in the concrete itself after pouring the concrete, and it can transmit to the construction manager or just anyone from the field what's the strength, temperature, and the humidity of the concrete, so that based on the certain thresholds or based on certain code values that you're following, you would decide, I'm going to strip the reforms and I need to take that and transfer to a different thing, and take that, integrate it with the corresponding tests in Primavera P6 that you can action immediately on what happened, what's completed, and what's suspended. So this is one of the technologies that we are very excited about within Oracle, and we work with them as a partner. They are called Concur. It's the one that's down at the bottom to the right corner. It's called Concur, German company. They have a very, very decent technology using IoT into that part. So, and we're really glad to work with those guys. Let me pick on another one. Today with the supply chain management for EPC, especially for the EPC and general contractors as well, there is a solution called Atlas RFID. There is another solution, so that I want to give you the idea. I'm not talking uniquely or exclusively about these technologies, but I gave you an example because I don't want to keep on mentioning and throwing a lot of use cases and then you're losing the name on the tag. That's why I put these logos, but I'm not giving any specific endorsement. I'm just giving this as an example. And of course, you can explore and search for other similar opportunities with other partners available in the market as well. So Javix, the company and the name of the solution is Atlas RFID. Obviously, they're using the RFID technology as on the gatekeepers for the delivery of the material that gets connected to both Primavera P6 and the ERP system in order to bring visibility and real-time schedules for the availability and readiness of the material into the job site. And that goes automatically into Primavera P6 so that the planner is aware that these activities can actually start and go ahead, be based on the material delivery. If I have a planner here on the call, they understand what it means having a driving material resource assignment on an activity if your project schedule is down to that level, and what this technology is bringing to the planner as a visibility, as a real-time update into Primavera P6 in order to push these activities into the construction schedule. And then they use blockchain technology when these materials are offloaded or unloaded on the lane yards. They use the blockchain technology in order to give status on the readiness of the material until they are used into the installation and the execution as well. So let me give you a very exciting example here today. I do want to ask the question because I think it's all of you here are using building information modeling, and I understand as well the challenge within some of the organizations that it's not really consistent. So within one company, we might have a project that it's still using the very traditional 2D drawings to hand them over to the clients, or even the clients giving them as built to the contractors. So I completely understand that. And there are some other projects where you as a project owner or you as a contractor is mandated to build a real model into the project. And well, I'm not going to comment that much on the level of development for the available models in the market because I'm sure that they vary. And I'm sure that most of you as well will agree with me that still the maturity of the building information modeling in this part of the world is not to the highest, and it's not what we have expected, especially after hearing the BIM in every single conference and forum over the past 15 and 20 years in this industry. BIM is still a source of truth for the design and coordination, but it's not really moving forward as part of the construction source of truth. So there is a technology called Reconstruct, okay? And just like Reconstruct, there is another technology, it's called Third Eye, 3RDI. What those guys are doing is the following. They have a platform that it's called VDC or VCC, Virtual Design Center or Virtual Command Center. And what they do is the following. Spot some cameras on site, or maybe drones, fly some drones, or cameras that they are installed on cranes. They take real-time images and videos of what's happening on site. I think this is a common practice that it's happening now in some of the strategic projects in the region. And if it's not that, then they use it for the time-lapse management. But I'm seeing a huge increase, especially within UEE, for the use of the reality capture using cameras such as Sincera, such as Leica, even drones in some of the projects, in order to capture the reality of that project. So what happens next? What happens is that this VDC is capable of bringing the design, be it a model or a 2D drawing, and then compare the design, the model, with the reality that it's captured within the VDC. What is it for me? What is it for you is the following, that it brings a comparison and a detection of all the defects and the quality issues that the reality has spotted versus what was indicated into the design. So what did we do as Oracle CAGB with that is bring these issues, because, well, the VDC or Reconstruct is not where you're doing collaboration with the subcontractors or an owner with the generic contractor. So we push this into Equinix, automatically trigger quality issues so that you as a user within Equinix is capable of looking at the issues without doing any site visits or anything that it brings any observations with your naked eyes. Very great use case, very helpful, with limited to a decreasing number of laborers within the job sites that we're seeing all across the world. I believe that this is one of the greatest technologies that we as Oracle Construction and Engineering Unit is adapting within our innovation lab that I will be mentioning later. Just like the exteriors of the project, there are some 360 cameras such as Verb, Garmin, Ricoh. These cameras, they can just be mounted on a helmet, and someone just walks through the interiors, and it takes real-time images into the VDC, and it processes, analyzes a comparison between the reality versus the design as well. So there are different technologies. Like I said, again, this is not for the sake of exclusivity. That's why I mentioned and I put together all the technologies that you can actually use, and it's completely up to you here. One more example, our friends from smartvid.io. So what does those guys do? So what they do is the following. They have an AI, artificial intelligence engine. They call it Veni. And that Veni is trained using machine learning technology to spot and analyze pictures and videos captured on site. They don't have to be real time. So you can just go and take a video and then bring this offline into their platform. And then it automatically detects any safety violations based on 24 criteria. So for example, a worker that they are not wearing gloves, social distancing, maybe any defects in the scaffolds, probably a material just left without any attention. Uh, uh, Too many other things. There are too many criteria that they keep on training their machine learning engine with it, and automatically processes, analyzes these violations, and it brings this again, as I said, into AACE in order to create safety violations or maybe safety incidents that someone has to pay attention to, of course, and personally evaluate whether this is a violation and what's the severity of that violation, etc., etc. So that really brings the safety management or the EHS applications within job sites into a whole new level. And one of the technologies that I'm personally excited about, and it really came in at the very right time with what's happening nowadays in the pandemic. So spend some time looking at it and look even at any alternate or alternative solutions that they do the same thing in the market. It's important, it's gaining traction. I personally work in three opportunities today that they are looking at smart vid to be integrated with their project management systems. Last but not least, another very exciting example is what we're doing with the TRIACS. So TRIACS is a US company. What they do is simple. They have devices that they are installed into into the workers build, and it transmits the actual hours, the location of these employees. This is what we're calling automatic timekeeping for the workers on site. And during the pandemic, they have developed an extension to their solution. They call it the proximity trace. And that proximity trace is acting as the first line of detecting temperature of workers, social distancing, and it of course implements and takes into consideration the privacy protocols of each company, and it sends that only to the construction supervisor who's looking after the workers on site, and they can actually take actions and send notifications to those workers on site without even the need for having GPS monitoring into it. So one of the other exciting technologies that they are integrated into Primavera P6, and that responds to the demand that have been always happening in the market, that it always says, well, we understand, Sharif, that there is Primavera tool, some other tools in the market, even Microsoft Project, they have a tool where each job site worker can take and input and feed in the actual hours they worked against which activity, but it's just not practical. And I just agree on that. Because with very huge projects, with people working day and night here and there across several activities, sometimes it's just not practical for me to go and indicate how many hours I worked against each activity. I just don't bother. All what I know is I worked 8 hours today or 10 hours today from this time to that time, but I cannot associate my actual commitment to the activities within the project schedule. I know this will be a great input for the planner, but this is not what's happening today. So timekeeping has been always an issue. And yeah, guess what? It wasn't companies such as ourselves or the largest competitors in the world who have responded to this organically. It's the startups. And this is when I told you I'm going to wear the hat of being sometimes a vendor and a client, because I have to be very fair for these startups and the technologies, not only Tiriax, there are some other technologies such as wake cap, and it's really quite common in this part of the world that they do automatic timekeeping using IoT technologies and sensors. Wake cap, for example, just another company similar to Tiriax, what they have is the tightener of the hard hat itself. It happens to be the sensor that uses this IoT technology in order to report back to the construction supervisor whether the worker is idle, they are active, are they doing the main work, or they're just chilling. So another great technology, another technology that it has a use case with the project planning and scheduling, that it gives visibility on the actual man hours spent in any project and how does that prepare for manpower asset capitalization. That is one of the elements into a reliable revenue recognition in any EPC or general contractor organization. So we'll be having all these slides, and like I said, please Google these names, Google the alternative solutions to these names, educate yourself on these technologies, and yeah, let me know what's your feedback. So just to wrap up my presentation with, and then open for the floor for your questions, is we as Oracle CAGB Construction and Engineering Global Business Unit, a little over a couple of years ago, we decided to build our own innovation lab just as a trailer in phase number 1, similar to the one that you're seeing. I've been into that innovation lab several times, and I probably worked with most of the logos that you've seen in there in building use cases to our own products. But then we decided that what's happening today in the industry is an evolution. It's never happened before. And the industry is really and increasingly adapting and embracing that change into the contact or the construction technology. So we decided about a year ago to build our extension or phase number 2 of the innovation lab in the same place in Chicago. And it looks like what you're seeing here now. It's a very big innovation lab. It has a theater. It will bring a world-class virtual experience. We had to do some changes in the design of the lab during the pandemic because as you know very well, customers, and I don't think this is gonna change for years coming, is we won't be seeing a lot of customer visits or physical visits to the lab. So we wanted to make sure that the virtual experience is not compromising with anything that the customer is looking at. Actual photos on site, that's up to this month date. So we're almost putting the final touches on the innovation lab. That's real pictures from the site, and as you can see, it is really anonymous. This is a very specific and dedicated innovation lab where all these logos that you've seen, they come in there, they have representatives, they have use cases integrated to Equinix, to Unifier, to Primavera P6, to Primavera Cloud portfolios and projects, to all of our applications. They can show you the use cases. They can discuss with you the development and configuration of any other use cases that might deem relevant to your industry, to the market, or maybe to your role in the industry. And we're really considering this as part of the commitment and the giving back to the industry. Just think about it. We're not selling anything new in here. We are actually showcasing other third-party solutions that we believe in, because we understand very well that cloud startups and those large companies that they focus on resolving just one thing, but they excel in doing it, is the way forward with any large and competent project management vendor such as ourselves. With this, it's set up for my presentation. Thank you very much indeed for everyone, and I am happy to start taking questions, whether on the audio or on the chat. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Sharif. It was a very informative webinar. We learned a lot about the innovation in the construction. To be honest, for myself, even even we are close friends, I didn't know too much about what you guys are doing for the last few years. And it's really nice to understand actually what kind of technology or new technology exists in the construction industry. I think we have a few questions. I don't know. Just let me read it for you. One question actually was from Ziad at the beginning. He was asking, are you talking about Oracle Prem products? I don't know if you have answered these questions because I don't think that you are talking only about Oracle. You're talking generally about the innovation. So, or and other competitors as well. So,
Okay, I'm happy to take that question, but I think it was revealed during the presentation, and therefore maybe the question came in at the beginning. No, I wasn't talking only Oracle. Of course, I was mentioning some examples that we as Oracle internally are doing. But no, it's not only ourselves. There are other vendors, and I think I mentioned several names around Bentley, Autodesk, uh, Procore. Those guys, they are also reaching out to some startup companies and they build use cases and integrations into their own platforms as well. So yeah, it's not only ourselves. And to answer your question broadly, if any vendor in the world, including ourselves, they would fail or pause in doing that, trust me, uh, their chances in tapping into the bigger market as we're going forward is very, very slim. So
okay.
hopefully that answers your question, Ziad.
Okay. Another question from Abbas, Muhammad Abbas. He says most of the enterprises are looking forward to get real-time captured information, data analytics, and decision support outcomes. How this system could help executive managers?
Well, it helps the executive management clearly by taking right decisions. And right decisions, what I mean is sometimes you as a project owner, you just need to dare to take the decision of, well, I need to introduce a massive change in a project or kill down the troubled phase of the project or a work package or what have you. Or some other times it's the unclear reporting of the cost management, sometimes cost overruns in materials, sometimes it's the material waste, sometimes it's the asset capitalization, some other times but it's you're bothered about the encumbrance cost that it's coming from using too much workforce or maybe design management into projects that they are not awarded to your company. So it's visibility, of course, it brings to the management visibility. What's happening from innovation perspective to the topic of today is most of the newly developed reporting or executive dashboards today, they're using the AI technology. I probably have seen one of the other questions I glanced at here is what's the use of the AI? I would tell you in the construction industry, the use of the AI, the most is going to go around the executive dashboards and using the predictive analytics, looking at the data patterns in the project and be able to predict the future of these projects based on the behavior that's happening into the project. And this is again not the future, the PF values and the earned value management and these things. What I'm talking about here is even the quality approvals, the health, the safety, the workers' behavior. So too many other things that they actually get impacted by the use of the AI in the predictive analytics.
Okay, so Farhad was asking what changes could actually AI brings into improving efficiency in construction industry in the next 5 years. So it has been one of the least efficient industry for decades. So I
Correct.
don't, yeah,
Correct. It's the least efficient, it's the least productive, it's the most slipping industry in terms of schedule and cost overruns. It's just the most, and it's the extreme in everything. So AI, there is a lot. One example that I just mentioned now. There are some other examples, such as the one that I mentioned about the safety management. Just imagine that you give me a picture from the job site and there is an AI technology that it can spot safety violations into that project. I don't want to really mention examples of adapters. I don't want to turn it to be commercial, but there are a couple of companies that they are using this software within our region. There are plenty in the US and hundreds of opportunities that they are happening today for this. This is using something called AI, Vinny the AI. That's like a kind of a funky name for their AI engine. They call it Vinny. That's trained using machine learning technology in order to spot too many variances and violations that you'll be able to see a full list of that on their website. These are two main examples of this.
Velas was asking if this is linked with block management system.
Sorry, with what? Block
Was the
management system?
block management system?
Do you mean blockchain?
Well, I don't know actually what the question is. This is the question, what he said, block management system. So I'm
I
not
don't know
sure from the
what's.
question. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not sure actually also from the question
yeah.
myself. So if you would like
I
to
think he
explain
meant
further.
blockchain. Maybe it's a typo. So I think he meant blockchain. Yes, there is a blockchain technology that it's incorporated into one of the solutions. It's called Jovix. Again, to spell it for you is Jovix. It's called Jovix, and they use the blockchain for keeping track of the material status when they are on the lane yards. So when you're offloading material on the lane yard and you want to just uh, monitor the status of this material, you need a blockchain technology. It is part of that solution, and it sends a status of the material readiness to the planner in Primavera P6. This use case that I'm talking about is not something we're envisaging or something that we pursue working with Jovix on. This is a use case that exists today. So if you have Primavera P6 and you have Jovix, those guys, they can install that feature to yourself. And yes, it uses blockchain technology. And of all the other innovators that you have seen into my slides, Jovix and their solution Atlas RFID, the most adapted solution, not just in the Middle East, but actually across the world.
Okay, the last question from Abbas, he speaks about regarding lean construction 5S's, last planner and collaborative planning. Is that adapted under the system in addition to traditional Primavera P6 scheduling?
No, it's not under Primavera P6 EPPM. It's under another product within Primavera. It's called Oracle Primavera Cloud. There is something called Primavera Cloud Lean Task Management, and that integrates with Primavera P6. The Lean Task Management, or the last planner that it uses, the last planner methodology, is what I exactly explained. Just imagine the lowest level of activity in Primavera P6. We take that within the Lean, and then me as a construction manager or just your direct manager will take that task, chop it up into lean tasks, and then make assignments to Sharif, to Saad, to Venkatesh, to Farhad, to Raf, to just every one of us. We see a list of the tasks that they are sent our way. We commit to it, and then it starts counting, and we can report back against these activities, either in real time or even reactively just after we finish this. This goes back into the construction manager, and they can evaluate the percentage of the work completed based on the commitments and the actual work that we have done, and then that goes back into the Primavera P6 for updating the schedule on a more consolidated level.
I think
So
this was, yeah.
yeah, hopefully that
I
answers.
think this was like a very detailed answer coming from a more enhanced person than actually a director. So,
Sure.
okay. Sharif, I would like to thank you so much for this presentation. Actually, we have to wrap it up. You gave us a very clear insight about the future of the construction industry. And actually, me, myself, and I think everyone in this session has been actually understanding and getting benefit out of these visionary actually issues you told us about today. Thank you so much again for coming and presenting this to us, and for everyone who attended today. Thanks also for being here, and we will be sending you by email as usual the presentation of Sharif and his contact details. So if you guys can speak to him, and if you have any further questions, you can ask him as well. Thank you so much, and hoping to see you soon again in one of our webinars in AACE Qatar. Thanks everyone. Thanks Sharif.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.